conscience hath 1,000 civil tongues, and every tongue brings in a several tale, and every tale condemns me for a villain. It is that thing we do not talk about, that in the deepest corner and the recesses of our mind and our soul and our being comes forth within our own passion to tell story. For there is no good without evil. It's the darkness that is the most fascinating aspect of what we do. It has the most depth. It has the most reach. It incorporates the most forethought. So here, this season on 21 Grams, we examine the part of the soul that we often try to bury or not talk about. They say that 21 grams is the weight of the soul. But what is the weight of sitting in darkness? This is what we aim to discover this season. Welcome to 21 Grams with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another 21 Grams. Thank you for all of you who are here to wait for a little bit and do this special time with us. I really appreciate it, and thank you to Bob for allowing that to happen as well, because this was really important to me tonight because I get to talk to one of my favorite humans on the planet, and we get to talk in a little different way than we've talked before. So thank you, Bob, so much for being here, and tell everybody who, for anybody who's under a rock who has never heard of you, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, first off, killer new intro. Digging that. So, I'm Bob McGough. I'm an author, indie game designer, and podcaster. I'm best known as the author of the Jubal County Saga, which is about a redneck wizard with a crippling meth addiction. Woo!
Awesome. And hello, Anita. Nice to see you.
Hey.
Thank you for being here. It's kind of interesting. By the way, I should mention at the top here, I've got QR codes for all of Bob's stuff. Anytime he mentions something, that will be what I cue it as. So if we're talking about the Jubal County Saga, I've got both omnibuses here, and then we've got Southern Saudade as well. It's interesting because you're about to venture into a landscape you've been wanting to do for a while, and now it's getting closer and closer for you in the horror aspect of things. But I would love to start the conversation with there's an interesting dichotomy I find right where you write at, where the culture you write for or write about and the idea of it. I think it's kind of interesting that the South has all these myths and legends and all these warnings. They're so afraid of everything. It's like they think they live in New Zealand, but they shouldn't be afraid of any of it. None of it is real per se, but a lot of it is real in their minds kind of idea. Is that kind of how you see it as well? Or do you feel like us Northerners don't understand what that fear really is about?
So I have this weird. I had this realization. It wasn't a realization today, but I saw someone who commented something that kind of echoed some thoughts I've been having over the past few years, and that it is so weird for me living in Alabama because I am, evolution believing, left of center kind of guy, and all the people I consort with on a routine basis are the same, and everyone's just kind of cool and chill,
Right?
And you can kind of live in a bubble, and only realize how awful it can be here through the news, and so for a lot of it is my writing harkens back to my youth, or my teenage, like pre-25, shall we say, when I was very much more out in the backwoods, surrounded by not stupid people, just people with just a wildly different worldview than I think is can I'd say maybe conventional. But out there, it the supernatural feels a lot closer out there, and I think a lot of that has to do with just how rural everything is. Um, and I mean, there, we do have things that can hurt you. We've got snakes out in the woods, and
Yeah.
uh, but that's about it. I mean, we don't really have any like
Yeah.
coyotes aren't going to hurt you, bobcats aren't going to hurt you. We don't have any bears.
Right.
Nothing like not in my part of Alabama. And so yeah, there to a large degree, other than snakes, there's not really anything out in the woods that can get you.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, we're not that many generations removed from very very rural living. Um, where my dad walked to school.
Yeah.
Um, my and that he wasn't that old, you know. Uh, and so it does just seem like the remoteness lends itself to horror, I guess you could
Mm.
say, just the belief in the supernatural.
Well, Jessica says when you live close to the woods and darkness, the supernatural is the next step. Yeah, I mean there is that.
Exactly.
Uh,
And when you don't have access to like ready access to healthcare, a lot of times you do fall back on folk, folk healing and things like that.
yeah,
So, um, yeah, yeah.
I the thing about it too that's interesting is do you feel like a lot of that is rooted in the fundamentalist ideal of you know religious aspects and things like that is kind of that idea, let's scare them into being good people kind of idea.
I do think that that plays into it. I mean,
Hmm.
uh, the town I grew up in, Honorville, Alabama, has gosh, at its most bustling, had two mom and pop gas stations and like two auto body shops.
Yeah.
But I can think of three churches, like that all in just like in this one. I mean, and think
Yeah.
this is a town that had no stoplights, nothing like that.
Yeah.
So at least three churches just right in that main drag. I mean, and if you expand like every 5 miles you expand out, the churches grow exponentially, and no other businesses crop up. So I mean, religion was and is to a large degree uh, the fabric that ties the community together. And I think possibly more so now in some ways than back in the day.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, everyone kind of like they would work in the community. They were farmers or things of that. Like very few people traveled for work.
Hmm.
And so while yes, everyone got together at church, there was also much more of a sense of community. Now most people don't work in that area. They
Hmm.
commute to work, whether
Yeah.
and so church is what ties people together to a large degree outside of family lines. um and there it's just American style evangelical Protestantism.
Yeah.
Hell is always right around the corner. um I mean, still a lot of revivals, a lot of there are no snake handlers in my neck of the woods, but there are sects of Christianity that are kissing cousins to snake handlers down there. Oh yeah, actually, I forgot about the Holiness Church. So there were four churches to four businesses in the area.
That's
So
about the right ratio.
yeah, right. And so yeah, it very much. I mean, that's just the fabric. And
Yeah.
again, it kind of lends itself to that. Uh,
Do you
I mean,
remember the first time you heard about cryptids?
I no, because partly because I have a terrible memory, but I do remember that from the Scholastic Book Fair, I bought a book of it was called like UFOs, Monsters, and Mysteries or something like that, and it was chock full of crypt Bigfoot and
One of
stuff
those
like
Time
that.
Life books or
Nessie.
whatever.
Yeah, it was, a little pocket-sized little book
Eh,
designed for kids, and,
mm.
Nessie was the first cryptid I was actually, like,
Oh,
obsessed with because of that. Nessie and the Bermuda Triangle were like my jam when I was little. I didn't really like Bigfoot didn't really interest me until I became an adult. It was I was all Nessie all the time. Sea monsters, anything sea monster related, I just loved. Um,
So
and
you didn't
yeah,
grow up with the fear bearing, parental style of if you don't go to bed, the Mothman will get you kind of thing, right?
no, no. My dad was an engineer. My very science based engineer. I
Yeah.
was the only kid in a school of about 800 students who believed in evolution. So we were
Yeah.
very much a science based household. He didn't
Yeah.
really truck with any of that. But that said, very science based household. My dad had built a cabin and he had built an outhouse for it, but not like a outhouse. This had running water. Uh,
Mm.
and but we were digging a trench one time and he couldn't remember where the water line was dug. And it just so happened that I think the guy was probably like my fourth or fifth cousin happened to be pulling up, and my dad was like, great, he's a water witch. And this guy was a deacon in the church now, but
Yeah.
deacon in the church, but also was known to be a water witch. And I was like, oh wait, what? um and yeah, sure enough, they just went and they got two welding rods, bent them into L's, and this cousin found our water line. You went dowsing with these rods, and choop, he's like, "There's your line." And yep, there it was. We dug down about 6 inches. There was the water line. Um, and so there was a little bit of, I guess that you could call it that cognitive dissonance of
Mhm.
and I think dad thought that, well, dad probably just, oh, well, there's some scientific reason behind it. And there
Oh yeah.
probably is.
Yeah.
Um, but it was still, it was just, dad didn't go get welding rods and try it himself. He knew that this guy could do it.
Yeah.
So I don't
It's
know.
it's the greatest irony, right? Like what's the thing where they put their hand in the water and the catfish noodling.
Oh, noodling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the greatest irony that they all use the metric system to judge how far to go down into the water. Like they talk about meters and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
I always found that like very ironic. Being in the deepest part of the South, where
Yeah.
letters and numbers are hard,
Yeah.
are a lot
Freedom
harder
units.
for
Yeah.
normal humans, or at least that's the perception, right?
Yeah.
Which is an unfair perception, to be quite frank. But
Yeah.
still, in a place where they're doing that is some stupid shit that they're doing, putting their hand in the water and letting it
Yeah.
be bitten. They're talking about how many meters to go down, and when they feel it, how it's like there's all this science behind it and everything like that, which is just incredibly fascinating.
I am fascinated by noodling.
Me too.
There will very likely be a Howard Marsh noodling story at some point, just because I love it. My dad had two DVDs. He had one that was literally called "Girls Gone Noodling," and it was not like sexual. It was just women noodling for catfish. So you just see these Jessica Nettles sized women coming up with a catfish about as big as they are on their
Yeah.
arm, you know. But yeah, no, and I've actually written catfish horror, and I've used a catfish god in Jubal County, so I do love me some catfish. I'm weirdly weirdly fast, and that I'll tell you that was another kind of early cryptid that I was really obsessed with was the catfish on the lake dam at the
Uh-huh.
lake dam that's the size of a Volkswagen. Like
Yeah.
I remember in I don't know, probably like third or fourth grade, there was a book that I checked out repeatedly from the library that was about fish like around the world, and the Danube catfish was in there, and that's like a 5 6 is the kind of like the size of like the Mekong River catfish, or massive catfish
Hmm.
that they have found human remains in over the years. So, and it's not till we've been having this conversation that I've realized that like I've kind of just been obsessed with ocean creatures for a lot longer
Yeah.
than I had really realized.
Well, we
It's all
could
kind of
talk
coming together.
we could talk about your favorite movie in a minute, but
Mm.
Jessica says there's a lot of sort of balancing of logic and unexplained stuff that happens when you're Southern, and
Mhm.
Gamekeeper says magic is just science we can't explain.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and Jessica is also a water witch. She says she can do that. So
yeah. Zero surprise. If any of the people I knew were, I would have bet money Jessica Nettles.
yeah,
No.
you know, the fascinating thing to me though is your fellow Southern writers tend to lean toward a lot of the more gothic, cryptid, a lot more serious tone to it. And I know that's not your personality per se, but you do have a serious side to you. I mean, you're not just dad jokes and
Yeah.
you know, and and fluffiness. You you do have a serious side to you, but it's interesting to me that the way you write has a sort of humor to it. That is it was it the absurdity of what was going on that you kind of leaned on for that humor, or did you want to kind of subvert the expectation of what you were talking about in a lot of your books?
So I think kind of two things come into play. One is the my series, like I don't really talk about it in these terms because it sounds like if you just hear it, oh, redneck wizard, you think it's just nonstop laughs,
Yeah,
and it does have some very funny scenes to
it
it, but
does.
it's not, you can't really call it a comedy
No,
series, right? This
no,
is no
no, no.
Bubba the Monster Hunter, right? Like
Yeah,
it's, but it's
and
part
I
of it's
didn't mean
been,
it like that. You
oh
know,
yeah, no, no, no. But I enjoy writing horror. It's my first love, and for me, um, comedy and horror work excellent
hmm
together. Like the splicing in little bits of humor to relieve the tension, so
hmm
you can allow the tension to build again. That to me is, so that's kind of what I do. The other that's kind of like the craft side, I guess you
hmm
could say. The other is more of like an ethical issue. I'm writing about a meth addict, right?
yeah,
And I that's a very serious, real problem in the
yeah,
world. So
yeah,
I don't want to just play that for laughs. Like it's not
yeah,
just one endless joke of ha
yeah,
ha ha meth. It definitely have to show that like there are real effects to drug addiction.
yeah,
So that's why I very rarely show any drug use actually happen on screen, but
yeah,
you mostly just get the effects. Like he'll say, like he goes into his box of oblivion, but
yeah.
I don't then this is not a how-to manual of how to do drugs.
Right.
Um, and so that's kind of the other thing that's at play there. But also just my humor in general, there's a lot of self-deprecating
Yeah.
there and a lot of uh I lovingly frustrate my friends quite frequently, whether it be just an barrage of puns or things
All
like
right.
that. Like, it's not like I don't do things to like make people mad intentionally,
Yeah.
but I do like, I will write a joke to its death and
Yeah.
frustrate those around me. And so a lot of the humor that I do with Howard is a lot like that. It's not necessarily that he is trying to get on someone's nerves, but uh, he is getting on someone's nerves in a funny way that he doesn't even realize. So
Right.
it's a lot of showing like the people around him, their eye starts to twitch, and he's like he doesn't even get what he's done, and a lot of self-deprecation in there. Like
Yeah.
he knows he needs some work. So
Well, we've talked about this before. One of my favorite all time scenes is at the football game in the parking lot, and poor Howard just does not know when to shut up, and he just keeps needling the guy until the guy just beats the crap out of him. And then
yeah,
even after that, he gets up and decides he's going to still be a tough guy and and try to talk some more shit to the guy, and the guy just was like, "No, you're going to go down again."
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and that's to me that's the hallmark of a true redneck
Yeah.
is um
Who's all? It's also a true addict as well. Addicts
yeah,
have that,
well, oh
way
yeah,
too.
but there he's gonna talk a lot. He's gonna talk a lot of bull mess, and he's
Yeah,
gonna try and back it up. And if you if you,
And he
you
never
know,
can.
yeah, you know, he's going to toe to ass whooping because he needs to. But that is, you know, there's not a lot of quit in him when it comes to situations like that. He'll keep jaw jacking until he gets knocked unconscious, basically.
The interesting juxtaposition, though, is that you also, in times when nobody else steps up, Howard is the one who steps up and tends to find the inner strength to take on the thing that nobody wants to take on. Like the burning bush in the middle of the football field.
Yeah.
And taking care. And he also has a very very superstitious like nature in that these spell jars are very important to him, and protecting them at all costs are very important to him because his mother is involved in all that, and then of course and then his relationship with her on top of all that, right? And that aspect of it too.
Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of the other. If people who read, like, it's one of those deals, like, I don't want to scare people
Yeah.
off from reading this, right? Like, I may be left of center, but I don't write that heavily onto the page because
Yeah.
I want people of whatever political belief to read this. But
Yeah.
I honestly hope that people, what I really want is people who typically would view addicts always negatively
Hmm.
to read this and kind of show that there can be a different side to
Hmm.
addicts. I mean, addicts are not addicts. Addicts are people, you know, and
Yeah.
so just uh, there, and there's a lot of hypocrisy in the South. You know, it's all hospitality and faith in the Lord, but then a lot of people don't actually want to do anything and step up. And they talk a good game. You know, they'll say what they need to say on Sunday, but then come Monday, it's back to hating your neighbor.
Hmm.
And I just wanted to kind of create a character that conventionally everyone would think is just the worst of the worst, but they're the person who, at the end of the day, is possibly the best of us. So,
I'm curious, is there a darker version of Howard or something you've written that you found too dark that you knew wasn't going to go along with the series that you've shelved?
uh, no, I
Is that what
did.
Southern Saudade is basically the response to changing
Uh,
your mindset?
well, I say they're kind of two response. One was in book 6. There's one of the stories in there features a lot of flashbacks.
Hmm.
It's like Marsh telling a story that it's back. Uh, what he's recalling is years took place years before the start of book 1, and it's back
Hmm.
when he was just a real piece of trash, just
Yeah.
like real awful, very selfish person. And and that was little bit hard to write at times because it's like I have kind of written this to show his gradual progression, and then
Mhm.
I'm basically having to wind back the clock and write a version of him that I never set out to write when I started this series. Like, that was
Yeah.
I know when I wrote book 1, I had no idea what book 6 was going to be.
Yeah.
So it just kind of came. And so the other thing I'll say is the book I have coming out with Falstaff, Capital Nightmares, is sort of a alternate reality for Jubal County.
Mm.
It uh, I doubt this will ever actually become like fully canonical or to any real degree, but essentially in my head, um, that is a version of the Jubal County universe
Mhm.
where people like Marsh didn't step up and stop
Mhm.
the bad thing from happening.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll say, like, honestly, like, I literally, um, uh, I wrote my main character uncovering a suicide victim, and that suicide victim was my self-insert cameo into the book. um, so really, truly, there's not really anything too dark that I
Mhm.
won't put on the page. If I will if I'll tuckerize myself in the book, I guess you
Yeah.
could say. When I when uh when my editor Rachel Brune, who I think a lot of people on here will know and will love as much as I do, she asked, "Is there anything interesting about your book that might help with the marketing or anything like that?" I put that in there, and her response back to the note was, "Damn, Bob." So, but yeah.
Do you are you a different writer when you write darker fiction?
Uh, I
Or do
don't
you
think
find yourself
so.
kind of mixing the two together a little bit?
I eh, I I started. I really and truly started as a horror author. Um, everything I've written as an adult has been some flavor of horror, to some degree. Like
Mhm.
Jubal County, if horror authors weren't so picky, I would market it as horror as well.
Mhm.
There's a, I mean, some of the scenes I write in that, I'm like, this is a horror scene. Like
Yeah.
when the hog of the road is being butchered in that shed and he's like walking on his hind legs. Like I wrote that scene to be as creepy as possible. And there's a lot of scenes like that.
Yeah, there is.
Um, but then I mean, the series I'm writing right now is a actual horror series that features a lot of cryptids. But I have a bunch of stuff in the trunk. So like I have a large number of steampunk short stories, but they're all horror flavored for the most part. It's like steampunk horror. And then I have a huge collection of Southern horror stories. I have a big collection of kind of horror flavored dark fantasy. That's
Mhm.
I ripped off The Witcher without knowing The Witcher existed, and then I read The Witcher. It's like, oh crap, um, oops. um, and then I have like a couple of grim dark fantasy novels in the trunk. So like everything I write tends to be dark.
Mhm.
Howard just tends to be the funniest of the lot.
Right, right. And like you said, it's not intended to be overtly comedy.
Yeah,
It's just you can't help it, but because of the juxtaposition of of who this character is and what he does, and the things that he gets into deeply, where and the people he gets involved with too are also very comical in their own senses as well, right? So
yeah,
there's a nice conversation going on about being Yankees and being Southerners. Hey, us Yankees do hypocrisy too. We just don't do a smile like Southerners do. And then Jessica says, we pretend to be polite. You have to pay attention to tone and body language. It's particular insipid here in the South. And my grammar went out the window. Sorry. And
no
then
worries.
Rachel, some love for Rachel.
Yeah,
And I lived in South Carolina for 10 years. I consider myself a Southern Yankee now. But yes, one phrase can mean 50 things depending on the context, body language, or facial expression in the South. And
yeah,
there is an irony to the meth wizard. Yeah. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Uh,
And both of my dads, my dad and my stepdad, were totally 100% Alabama born and raised. But both of my mom and my stepmom are both transplants. My stepmom was from Missouri, and my mom was Air Force. So I kind of got both a little bit. The staunchly Southern vibe, and then
yeah.
watching the metamorphosis of these very much. Well, Missouri is kind of. I mean, they're in the SEC now, so I guess we kind of got to count them as the South. Um, but
It's as much South as Texas is, right? So.
right, right. It's totally different flavor. Um, and so it's been neat to kind of see that play out.
There you go. Sean, it's giving you permission to rip off The Witcher because it was
Yeah,
already ripped off before.
he's not wrong.
I, you know, I think the interesting thing too, especially when you look at like Southern Sawdad, um, the darkness is more of a cautionary tale in a lot of respects, right? Do you find is that the direction your horror goes to, your darkness goes to, is more of be careful of what you find in the dark kind of aspects, or do you find it's more of uh, it's more of what Lake Placid is basically, where we know that this thing exists, but we're gonna go in there anyway and just get eaten. Fuck it.
Yeah. No, it's good that you brought up Lake Placid. My style of writing horror is I go into it with no sort of ulterior motive. I
Mm.
just have things that tickle my pickle, whether it be, snake handlers
Mhm.
or giant critters eating people or stuff like that. Like that's just what my horror
Mhm.
is chasing down and scratching these itches for me. Like I've got a horror short story that is heavily based on giant catfish in a lake. Um,
Yeah.
eating dead bodies. So it's very much just like scratching these cats. This one likes to click my mouse. Okay, there we go. And so it's very much scratching uh my horror itch for myself,
Yeah.
So
So capturing that of what you love about horror.
yeah, and no real cautionary message to anything.
Mhm. Well,
Just
it's
because yeah.
fascinating because I think there's some underlying civility to Southern Saudade, like especially like the ghost story,
Mhm.
where he's got the ghost in the car. It's kind of this the lost love story kind of idea, right? And then
Yeah.
even the vampire story, to a certain extent, is kind of love for the lost of that lore, right? And that
Yeah.
so there is that underlying in a lot of those stories there, and so I mean
Yeah.
I know that the horror you got coming up, it's very much like more like a Lake Placid idea, but
Yeah. Yeah. Southern Saudad's a little bit different.
hmm
It because it is a horror collection,
hmm
but it's not necessary. It's horror because of the. I call it my impossible to market book because it's. I would think that most like diehard horror off like readers wouldn't really consider it horror, even though it has kind of all the tropes of ghosts and
I don't know about that. I
vampires and
think
things like
if you're an
that.
'80s horror fan, it's got a lot of '80s kind of vibe to it in the horror.
Yeah, and
A lot of
but
like
then
Dean Kuntz's era kind of feel to it.
yeah, 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 and I could I think of it kind of maybe a little bit. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. China Melville, kind of his more horror kind of
hmm
stuff. Maybe a little less out
hmm
there, um, but then like for that, uh, I didn't go into it with like an ulterior motive.
Yeah,
But I wrote a couple of stories that had had a. I realized that they had a similar vibe,
yeah.
and then I kind of rounded out the collect. Like it just so happened, like
Well,
oh well, I've kind of got three things that fit, and so the ulterior motive, I guess you could say, with that was really kind of purging, I guess, venting uh my history of failed relationships onto the page, and like it kind of in a way of like putting it behind me, like
I
purging
mean,
it from my system because I've got an amazing wife now,
yeah,
and
it also pays homage to certain things you love that would be horror adjacent, like typo negative and things like
yeah,
that. So you
yeah,
know,
it's horror in the way that October Rust is horror.
yeah,
You could say,
that's a
yeah,
fair. I think that's a fair set. But I do think, as Anita said, that horror takes many forms, and I think that that horror can be. That's a cool thing about horror, right? Horror as a genre can be so many different things, and it can be heartwarming and tantalizing, just kind of in a darker sense of it, right? And
yeah,
I also think was I think part of it, and we've had this discussion before too, that you wanted to stay within the known universe that you're currently writing in Jubal County, and these stories kind of fit that aspect of it too,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah, yeah. All the stories are canonically Jubal County, because I do really want to expand this universe, like I said, the book that Falstaff is putting out, it is totally standalone. It is technically not a Jubal County novel, but you could view it as
alternate,
a
okay.
alternate universe take on an alternate universe.
Mhm.
Um, and then but like the trilogy I'm working on right now and the standalone horror novel I'm working on right now, those are all Jubal County. You don't have to, and none of them you're gonna have to have read any of the others. They're all
Yeah.
standalone, but same
In a
universe.
different part of Jubal County.
Yeah, yeah. Like the trilogy takes place in Tuscaloosa County primarily
Mhm.
because Roll Tide, and the standalone does take place in Jubal County, but a different part of Jubal County that hasn't really been seen. So, um, yeah, yeah. I'm
Mhm.
excited to expand the world a bit.
Jessica says, my horror isn't exactly mainstream either. Slow burn and quiet. Different horror styles are good. We don't all need gross stuff. I agree.
Yeah, I don't really do body horror. Um, it's not really my bag.
No, it's mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I call Southern Saudade supernatural Southern Gothic because I I don't think it'd be fair to really call it full blown Southern
Mhm.
Gothic, but it's a neighbor to it. It's next door to it, and I think and like talking about like Jessica stuff. I think you lived down here long enough that that whole ethos. I mean, you can't. If you've ever lived in the country, you're constantly driving by abandoned homes.
Yeah.
Some of them antebellum homes that are gone to ruin. There are
Yeah.
folks that have lived in the same house for generations, and you see that. The grotesque is everywhere. And so I think that permeates a lot of what we do as authors, and it's just a reflex for us.
Horror can be anywhere, and Stephen King made us afraid of clowns, dogs, and some myths. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
what about your okay? So, Shirley Jackson made us fear each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what about your game design aspect of things? You have some darker games too that you've created. Is that is that a lot harder to kind of convey a darkness because you're really you're just putting a setup together, right? That basically somebody has to run with and create on their own. Or do you think you can still gather that tone through a setup?
I'd say honestly it's harder in game design because like I can write something that I know scares me, right?
Hmm.
Or makes like, ooh, that's creepy. Ooh, oh, don't like that. Let's put it on the page. And that's easy because I don't have to necessarily scare everyone. I'm not going to scare everyone, but I know that if this scares me, there are other people who will be scared by it.
Hmm.
And as long as I do a good job writing, people are not going to flip the table. But with game design, I'm building a framework and putting it in the hands of people. And that to me is just harder because horror is hard to do in tabletop games. There are a few games that do it exceptionally well. Dread is kind of my go-to. I don't think
Shadow
you
Dark.
to me Dread is the pinnacle. I literally don't think you could design a better horror game than Dread. For one shots. Like it's perfect. Just the you use a Jenga tower instead of pulling dice, and so you have
Hmm.
that every if you knock the tower over, your character dies. So every pull adds stress. Like it's so good. And I know I'll never be able to achieve that. They've already
Yeah.
designed Dread. Anything else would just be a variation of the theme. Like that's the peak. So yeah, it is hard. But after a certain point, you just kind of gotta just throw it out there and trust. Um,
Mhm.
that said, I none of my games do I really kind of market as straight up
Yeah.
horror.
Yeah.
I stay away from that just because of how difficult that is. Like, there's a Witch at the Edge of the Woods is really more gothic,
Hmm.
spooky, historical.
Which, by
And
the way,
that
is getting a lot of love in the chat. Tiffany says she's going to buy it for Christmas, and
yeah.
Jessica says about the Witch game as well.
Yeah, 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 and that talk about Shirley Jackson hating each other. I don't want to spoil the point of the game, but there is a whole that is one that I sat down with a purpose. Like that,
Hmm.
I had something I wanted to say about the nature of
It
witch
is the only
hysteria.
time on Hit the Dice that I've seen people turn on each other. So
you know, um, and then Cryptic Capture Core or Containment Core. That one is very much it's based around a lot of
Mm-hmm.
typical standard horror things, but that's less of a horror game and more of it's the X-Files. And was the
Mm-hmm.
X-Files frequently horror? Yeah, but so is Doctor Who, and no one
Yeah.
considers it a horror show. So it's more that vibe. Scary moments, but really it's about the team coming together to overcome something. Um, the only game that I ever really put uh, uh, more straight up is Cerberus Reach, where I say it's like sci-fi horror because it
Mm-hmm.
really is more so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Yeah, there's some frameworks like Mothership that you automatically
yeah,
know what that's going to be entailing, right? Because as
yeah,
Jessica says so aptly, you can create the tone. You
yeah,
also can create the IP that you can also funnel in an IP that, I mean, when you look at like a Mork board, you know what you're about to get
yeah,
into, right? Because it's
yeah,
going to be crazy punk rock metal
yeah.
aspect of kind of gaming,
Yeah. And like with Cerberus Reach, I very much stand on the shoulders of giants there. Like I literally put in the front is like, do you like Mothership? Do you like Death in Space? This is very much in that vein. And even if
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to use it for the game, uh, that's the game I've put the most lore into by far.
Mm-hmm.
I build a mini setting within that
Mm-hmm.
just because I wanted something that okay, maybe I didn't to you maybe you pick it up and he just didn't really nail the mechanics on this. I'm not really digging that. But you can take all that and use it to do a more horror based maybe Death in Space or Mothership. Well, I mean Mothership's pretty much just horror anyway, but um
So you're. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about the other thing that is going on with you, but something with Jubal County with the Howard Marsh series is being translated into another medium.
yeah, no, we can talk about that.
Okay,
Well,
so in that respect, but also in the respect of you have watched us play your games here
mhm,
without you being involved.
yeah,
I'm curious and then you have seen scripts of what is being written for
yeah.
what is going to happen to the Jubal Count saga uh, in terms of how it goes. Are you happily surprised by how it's been perceived? Do you feel like, or did you learn something about perception versus reality for you in terms of what you thought it was going to be when you put it out there versus what it became when it got
Yeah.
played?
So there's two very different answers to that. So with Jubal County, um, at the time that for those who don't know, a screenwriter who she's worked on a number of shows that you've seen, like True Blood and Dark Winds. She reached out to me to write a pilot, and she's currently shopping it around Hollywood. And usual Bob Luck, good thing happens, bad thing immediately follows, and the writer, like this is right after the writer's strike, and the studios have been punishing writers and not buying anything pretty much ever since.
Yeah.
So, but she's still plugging away at it. And so I'm cautiously hopeful that something comes of it. But at the time that that happened, I was confident in my craft.
Hmm.
I guess you could say. Like I knew people liked Jubal County at that point. I
Hmm.
had by that point I had probably had a couple hundred reviews in total come in that 4 and 5 star reviews. So
Yeah.
I said, okay, people like this. Would I
Yeah, and a
want
certain
more people
somebody
like it?
putting it
Sure.
on his best of list as well.
Yeah, no, and it's largely because of group like this channel that's gotten
Yeah.
me so much of the awareness around it. Um, and so with that, it has been amazing to see like, oh my god, this is what a script could look like. That's
Right.
so cool, like
Yeah.
that's um, and I've I've read The Godfather a bunch of times. I bet you know how movies get made, right? So
Yeah.
um, uh, I know how the I'm well aware of the reality of what's going to happen to that script eventually if it does get picked up. It's going to become something probably totally different. But you know
Yeah.
what? If I'm getting able to blot my tears with crisp $100 bills, I'll be okay with that. You know.
Yeah.
Um, but with the gaming, I don't have that confidence in my games. Like I have done game design because it's something I love and I
Hmm.
just love doing it. I created all these one sheet RPGs for years. I made like 40 of them and would just put them out and didn't care. Didn't care if they were good or not because I
Hmm.
basically like gave them away. And then when I decided, is like, you know what? Let's take this a little more seriously and actually like make a product and actually put it out there and put time and effort into it. Well, I've put a lot of time and effort into it, not really knowing if they're any good. Like
Yeah.
playtesting, who playtests, right? Who has time to playtest? Who has friends to playtest with? Um, if my D&D group gets together, we're not playing my games.
Right.
We're playing something like Morkborg. Um, and so like Cryptid Containment Core was already released as a zine before my group ever played it. Only once it was out there, they're like, "Oh yeah, we could play that,"
Hmm.
and they liked it. But I can't watch people play my games for more than like 5 minutes at a stretch. Like I can't tune in because it just makes me so nervous. Like I just turn into this like because I don't have that confidence in my game design. Right?
Hmm.
Maybe in 10 years I'll be at that level that I am with my novels, but I ain't there yet. So uh it's been really, I've been really blown away at how much people have enjoyed these games just because I did not expect that. Like I always like to set the bar like basically at the floor,
Yeah.
you know. Uh, so
Yeah.
it's easy to get over, but I've been really blown away at how much people have enjoyed playing these. And it's like, a few minutes at a time, I watch these streams of it getting played on here, and it just blows me away. Just blows me away.
Tiffany says you should. I love playing CCC. I have so much fun. And then Jessica slowly raises her hand for desk playing, and then she says, "I'm happy to run CCC games. It's an honor." Um, yeah, I get that. I mean, it is the same thing with me and watching my films being made. Like I know how the sausage was made. I know what went into it. I also know all the things we did wrong. I also know all the things that happened that were disastrous and nobody will ever know about. And all of those things creep into the mind of what. And then I've also spent countless hour after hour after hour rewatching, watching, rewatching, watching. So I've seen it 150 times, and then going and seeing with an audience is like, do they laugh where I laugh? Do they cry where I want them to cry? Do I invoke the emotion? All of those things are very very testy, and it's very difficult for me to sit there and enjoy that. So I totally understand that idea. So
Yeah. It's heavy. See, your problem is you try to make good movies. Back when I was making movies, there was no expectation that they'd be good. And shocker, they weren't.
well, I've tried it, and I have not made good movies. So that's the thing. The designs are simple and effective. So, uh,
Yeah.
I that the curious nature of that to me though is um, in terms of you put yourself out there a lot. You're doing you do probably what 20, 30 events a year, maybe 10 to 20, maybe more.
Yeah.
And you're always looking to add to more and do more.
I'd
And
say
you're and
probably
you're
20 events a year on
Yeah,
average.
and then you're going to and you're slowly starting to put your gaming aspect of yourself out there as well, and you're incorporating that. So people are starting to get to know you. They're starting to watch what you do on our show, on our channel, and wherever else your games are being played. And like at Conjuration, I'm sure you had a pretty good crowd for that game, and
I'll tell you a funny story about Conjuration. Uh, so both nights that we did the live play, it was pretty late at night. And Conjuration is not necessarily like, it's not Dragon Con. It's not a late
yeah,
night con as much. It's a much more family friendly con.
yeah.
And so the first night was Cryptic Containment Core that I ran, and that went well. Had a decent crowd. But the next night was Everyone is John, and there were like uh, I don't know, two people in the crowd, but one of them was the gaming track director for Conjuration, and halfway through he just gets up and walks out, and I was like, oh god, I'm never going to be allowed back. They're not going to never let me do another live play, because I thought it everyone's John gets weird, and it got weird. But I saw him the next day. I was like, hey man, sorry if we like. He's like, oh no. I had a panel I had to get to. No, that was hilarious. It was so much fun. I had a blast. We'll do it again next year. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because there were like 2 people in the room and one of them got up and left. So I was like, oh, there are more people on the panel than are in the room.
It happens, especially the late night ones. But
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
What I'm curious about though is, do you what you're about to go a little bit more serious with your horror? The horror is going to come out. I mean, are you concerned about the separation that people know you and know your humor, they know who you are, and then you're about to put out something that's completely unique to their experience of Bob? How do you feel about that? Are you nervous about that? Do you feel like you think that it'll go over well? How do you feel about what you're about to do with that?
Very nervous. Because you're right. Now I don't think they're as wildly different tonally. But I'll say this horror trilogy I'm writing, there's not much humor to it at all. It's very much cryptid based horror, things that go bump in the night in scary ways, eating people, and it is very different, and it is a worry. Horror readers I tend to find are more particular. I expect that the reviews on this will not be as glowing as my main series, partly because horror readers are harder to get that little extra. But then also, I expect to disappoint some of my like folks who come from, like, oh, Bob's got a book out and they're coming for Howard Marsh. This is not a Howard Marsh book. It is in the universe. It expands that. You see a lot more Rutherford. This is a Agent Rutherford heavy. I mean, this book is Cryptic Containment Core kind of in book form, or in trilogy form. Now, that trilogy is eventually like going to tie in straight into kind of mainline Jubal County. But there's I'm definitely nervous about it.
Do you
and thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica says trust your craft. I believe in you. Do you think though? I what's interesting is that's what, like, especially the book you're releasing with Falstaff, you wrote before Jubal County. The original idea was there before then. Do you feel like there's a kind of a kismet though, that, like, because you mentioned earlier that you have a confidence in your writing now and who you are, putting it out now might be a little bit more solvent for you than it would have been when you originally had put it out there? Or do you feel like you missed an opportunity there to kind of change the narrative?
Well, it's one of those, I am more confident in my craft now than I was, but I'm also a neurotic little ball of shit. So I'm just going to find ways to worry. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it is more of a homecoming. And at the end of the day, I write what makes me happy. Now, it just so happens that what I write seems to resonate with people. And I hope that this will as well. But if all I cared about was just selling a number of books, I would not have written this trilogy. I would not have done the standalone horror. I would have gone straight into Jubal County #7 and just kept going with that. But it's like, no, I gotta write what I gotta write. Grr. So damn the consequences. So and on the flip side, I do think it it kind of broadens my reach a little bit for
Yeah.
folks who might have been a little hesitant to sign on for Redneck Wizard. I think cryptid horror will sound more appealing
Yeah, maybe.
to
Yeah.
some folks. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna have fun.
Do you
I'm gonna have
think? Do
fun
you
with it.
think that? Do you think that your cryptid horror could sell your Redneck Wizard?
I'm hoping that they feed off each
Mhm.
other because it's and there have been panels on this. I haven't been on one, but I saw one. I think Rachel Brune was on. It was uh, where I didn't see it, but I saw it on the panel schedule. Like Dragon Con, I think this year had a panel that was basically the urban fantasy and horror. Are they just the same thing? And
Mm.
yeah, I think there's a ton of overlap, and I think there's more overlap there than people give it credit for, especially
Hmm.
on the darker side, like your uh what's it I mean, Sandman Slim by Richard Kadrey is uh very much on the darker side of urban fantasy, and I think that there's a
Hmm.
lot of overlap with horror there.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping that they kind of cross pollinate, and folks that are intrigued by the universe read it all.
Hmm.
That's the real dream.
Do
I'd
you?
much rather sell 9 books than
Mhm.
either 3 books or 6 books.
Of
So
course. Do you feel like maybe reading, if somebody were to read your horror first, they might read Howard Marsh differently?
uh I think they will, because Howard Marsh actually shows up, and that's part of, like, Howard Marsh is showing up in this series a lot more than I had originally intended.
Hmm.
Um, so when I got the idea for the concept of this trilogy, uh, there was no thought that Howard Marsh was going to be in it. And then I got to the end of book 6, where book 6 ends. I knew that there's going to be a time jump before book 7, and I started
Mm.
the next arc. So I knew that going into it. And so as I'm writing this horror trilogy, it occurred to me, oh, well, this would be, it actually could be kind of cool to have Howard Marsh in this, like show
Hmm.
up for this. And then that just kind of, okay. And then I was like, oh, well, wait a tick. I had never had a thought as to why there was going to be a time jump. I just wanted there to be a time jump of, 3 years or so, just to move the story along so we can kind of get to where I need it to be.
Mm.
I can always go back and fill in the gap. Well, when I
Mm.
said, I was like, oh, well, this is the perfect thing. The reason that there's no Jubal County books going on right now is because Howard Marsh is not in Jubal County right now. He's actually in Tuscaloosa County for reasons. Read the trilogy, you'll see why. But it actually like makes it's one of those, like, just sitting in the shower, like thinking
Mhm.
through things. Oh my God,
Mhm.
that makes so much sense. So um, that's where he's at. So he actually is going to show up a bit. So I'm hoping that
Mhm.
folks that read that get intrigued by Howard Marsh, and then they go back and to get a fuller picture of it. And in that regard, I think it might work well. I just talking about horror and other subjects, I just read The Daughter's War by Christopher Buehlman,
Mhm.
which is the second book in his, I don't even know what that setting would be, what that universe is called, but it is a basically a prequel novel that focuses on kind of a major character in the Black Tongue Thief, which was
Mhm.
the other story in that. And I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. Like, I read Black Tongue Thief, now I'm getting to read this, getting to learn a lot more about a character. I could see where that could appeal to a reader. So hopefully that appeals to um, I don't know, just a couple million readers. Nothing big, just a
Yeah,
few million here and there, so I can quit my
bring
day
that to
job.
existence. Well, you got a couple fans here. Tiffany says my favorite kind of horror is scripted, and Jessica says I read horror and urban fantasy. I don't see a problem with the overlap.
Thank you.
I
Thank
also
you.
love horror cryptid and X File flavored stories. So
Mhm.
yeah,
I was real my X Files.
and I'm not trying to you know accentuate your nervousness or the idea of it. But what I think is fascinating is that you do have a different perception of Howard Marsh than the audience has given you, and so I think that your horror is kind of going to accentuate that a little bit more, and I think That's a good thing because I think that shows you are finding a voice and legs behind what you're doing. So, you
Yeah,
know,
cautiously optimistic, but I'm just
you're
I'm
Bob.
just gonna be, yeah, I'm me. I'm me. I'm gonna fret. I'm gonna fret endlessly. Uh I mean,
Yeah,
you see behind the scenes, you see it all the time. Ben
yeah,
Meeks, y'all see it. Long car rides or late nights at cons. At some point,
yeah.
I'm just going to be like, man, I think I'm just messing up. My
and
last con.
it's funny because you always are you're down, and it's partially because of the way it sells, but Southern saw that, and I happen to think that's just a genius book. I mean, it's just amazing to me. So
I legit think it's my best book. It's just in that nebulous kind of in between space that makes it
mhm,
hard. But the right person comes along, and you can tell, and it's like
mhm,
to a certain section of the populace, it's catnip.
mhm.
But it it's kind of hard to just make a pithy sign to lure people in for it. I'm still working on it. We're workshopping it here in Tells by Bobland. I'll nail it down eventually. So
do
yeah.
you do you think playing in the darkness and I mean, because you have it's funny because really the darkness is the characters you create that are living with it and holding on to it. Like Howard Marsh holds on to a lot of darkness,
Mm.
and it comes out sometimes, and sometimes it comes out in the wrong spaces and gets him in trouble, which is the beauty of Howard Marsh. But you have bad guys, you have antagonists in these books, but we're so focused on what happens to Howard that I think those antagonists kind of are background a little bit more than they
Yeah.
would normally be. It's not a good versus evil story, kind of idea, right? So do you feel like playing in the darkness of within your protagonist is kind of your jam? Do you like that aspect of it
I
tremendously?
do, I do, and it's I don't know. I was a goth kid in high school. I've struggled with depression, off and on my entire adult life.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm just deep down and like I come across as very bubbly and upbeat and yada yada yada, but like deep down in the cockles of my heart, there's just this brooding darkness there,
Mhm.
and um, I love to steer into that,
Mhm.
and it's um, my mental health has improved at, alongside my craft to a degree, I would say. Um, and I think part of that is a little bit of purging some of that dark, like steering into it. Like you had a bad breakup, so you listen to
Mhm.
the 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 breakup playlist. Anytime I had a breakup, typo negative on loop. Just steer into it.
Yeah.
And it's cathartic.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's a line, not from typo, but I can't, I'm blanking on the song, but is it somebody that you should know? You can become addicted to a certain kind of sadness. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
I feel like on subconscious level, some of these breakups and mopiness that I kind of drove the car off the cliff myself because
Mhm.
you can become just like it
Self-sabotaging.
self-sabotaging, but in love with the feeling of the
Yeah.
darkness, I guess you could say. And so this allows me to kind of safely vent my spleen, as it were, um, and kind of get that out of me so it doesn't. Uh, I purge the toxicity onto the page to a degree,
Yeah.
so I don't let it out in my own life. Don't go drink to oblivion and whatnot, unless you're around, because you're bad influence, Joe. Um, you lead me to drink, and I lead you to Waffle House. It's
It's
the best sort of bromance imaginable.
and to be fair, we've kind of both of us have kind of simmered down in that aspect too a little bit.
We're not getting any younger,
Yeah.
but
Last thing I want to talk about with you, we're already over, but I wanted to hit this because it's an important aspect of who you are and what you do. Um, the music aspect, are you searching for something uh to help you get to a certain spot, or do you use it to enhance what you're already feeling?
Uh, most of the time when I write, if I'm writing Howard Marsh, I have a specific playlist for that kind of
Mm,
gets me in that headspace. And
mhm,
these days, it's less about the actual content of the songs and more that
mhm,
I've just trained my brain just slips that gear, when I'm writing that. For the most part, I write with just, and maybe this is why all everything I write has a little bit of darkness to it, but my go-to writing music is Born Under Clubbergore, which is this German funeral doom jazz instrumental band, specifically the album Sunset Mission. It's super upbeat. But that's what I've trained myself to write to. Like I play
yeah.
that and the words start flowing. Um, but music is a huge influence on my writing. Um, I mean, expect like Southern Saudad's probably the where it's the most prevalent. Um, and just how much the music ties into the stories.
Mm,
And that's why, like, there's you can go on my website and find the Southern Saudade playlist. I think I may even put it at the back of the book. Just like the songs that were tied to the individual stories.
I think I
Um,
remember it being in your book. Yeah.
yeah, I think it is. And so, yeah, music is a huge influence. I aspire, like, Dream of Dreams is we mentioned Michael Moorcock earlier, but there are a number of bands that have written songs either about Elric or the Eternal Champion, stuff like that.
Hmm.
They're whole bands that have named themselves after stuff like that. Same for Lovecraft. There's tons of there was an amazing metal band out of Birmingham. The best, in my opinion, the best metal band to come out of Birmingham was a band called Throng of Shoggoths. Um, so I dream of uh, having the same, like,
Mm,
and with my background's in music industry, I have a lot of connections with bands. Um, I may try and put my thumb on the scale a little bit,
mhm,
and but I really want there to be music in the universe of Jubal County.
mm.
Be it bluegrass Americana or some ideally some good stoner metal, maybe some if Weed Eater wanted to put out a Meth Wizard song, I would I'd be okay with that. Um, you know, if they
Aw-
ask nicely.
Awesome. Well, metal bands out there who are watching, and IP available,
Yeah.
go talk to the man.
Yep.
So tell everybody where they can find all this wonderful stuff that you're doing, and yeah, give everybody an insight into where they can find you.
Tales by Bob. Just search wherever you're at. Just search Tales by Bob. That's my website, my social medias. If you're more interested in the game side of me, you can find it through Tales by Bob, but you can also search Bearded Bard Inkworks, and that's where all my games are available. And my next in-person event is in January 9th through 11th. I'll be in NOLA for Fanboy Expo New Orleans. So come say
Going
hi.
back to New Orleans.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Me and author Ben Meeks and another author who I'm suddenly blanking on, uh uh Rich Partain. The three of us are going to go down there and share a booth for the weekend
Nice.
and have a good time.
Awesome. Well, we're going to finish up our year at 21 grams. So just not, we're just getting started with the season, but we do have one more show for 2025, and that will be next week with Mr. Milton Davis. So we're going to finish off
Ooh.
in style here. I mean,
Yeah.
Bob McGough and then Milton Davis. Like, I mean, how much luckier can I get? So,
Well, one of those names is a lot bigger than the other. And spoiler, it ain't Bob. So ending on a high note. Ending on a high note. So
well, I'm definitely ending on a high note with you and Milton, so I really appreciate it. I had JD last week, so it's really a
ooh.
trifecta for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I really
Congrats.
appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you so much
Always.
for talking about this, and thank you all for watching. And remember, that's always time to go and eat now. We'll see you guys again soon. Bye.